Welcome to Simply Business. I'm your host, Taylor Lee, and I'm so excited to have you here. As a business consultant, I've helped countless business owners simplify their strategies and achieve their goals, and now I'm here to bring you this expertise right to your ears. Each episode, I'll be sharing tips and strategies to help you achieve your business goals without the overwhelm. I will also be chatting with business owners and industry experts to share their stories, insights, and lessons they've learned along the way. Let's dive in and simplify your business. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Simply Business. I am so excited because today I'm joined by the beautiful Rebecca Adehill, and we are diving into all things funnels, sales, and just making money in your service-based business, which I am so excited for. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. Love the setup. We've got some sparkling water, aircon, all the things. We're set.
We're set.
We're going to have a good conversation.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I need to be mindful of the time because I feel like with us, we could just like, be like, 2 hours.
We definitely could. Yeah, definitely. We'll try and stay on track.
Yeah, I love it. For anyone that doesn't know you, I would love a little bit of background just about who you are, your story.
Beautiful.
How you are, how you've gotten to where you are, rather.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm a mother of 3. And I grew up in Sweden and I moved out here in 2010. And from that point, started very much humble beginnings, came out here, broken English, $3,000 in the bank. And I moved to Sydney originally. And then I just started to build. I got into real estate. I worked for a big fitness franchise called F45. I landed a job there and I worked for their head office for quite a few years. And I was their global franchise manager. So essentially when people bought a franchise, they would come to me and I would teach them how to run the franchise.
Yeah.
And something that I really noticed when I did that was that they were really good at training people, but they had no idea how to run a business. So they would come and spend an entire week with me and I would train them how to run the business. And then we're like, off you go. Yeah. And they're like, so now what? And what I noticed then was I'm like, I'm seeing a gap here. What if I can actually create a business where I can support them running the back end of their business so they can focus on training people? And that was how I started my first business, which was a business and marketing agency specifically for fitness franchises. Ran that for a number of years and, I had a beautiful staff or team of staff members, and we had clients in, I think, 7 countries, beautiful scale. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So my revenue declined 95% of revenue, overnight, just gone, because all of the gyms shut, so we couldn't deliver our service.
Right.
And that was basically how my coaching business was born, very organically, because I was on government grants. My business was classed as one of the most affected ones. I was okay, but from a financial standpoint, the 95% loss is that's a significant loss in a business.
Insane.
And I just started to share online of what I was seeing online, what businesses were pivoting really well. And I was just basically analyzing what I was seeing in the market. And then I had people started to reach out to me, hey, Rebecca, I lost my business due to COVID. Do you think you can help me? Or I want to start my business, or I need to pivot in my business. Do you think you can help me? And basically I started to take on one client, another client, another client, another client. And then all of a sudden my coaching business just blew up. And here we are a few years later, kicking goals, and that's pretty much it.
I love it. What a cool story. And I love organic stories as well, when the business literally just kind of fell into place. Of course, there would have been so much hard work and sacrifice that went into that, but where it is just in such alignment for you of what you're building.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I really love that. And I think just looking back at that, I think, I had so many challenges, but I was never a victim to what was happening to me at the time. It's I was just looking for new opportunities. And I think it's such a key skill to be able to master as a business owner, not necessarily looking at, this is a challenge, now I'm stuck in this challenge. It's really learning to be able to look for opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. With that, my question for you, what has been, and I'm sure there's been a few, but what has been one of the most challenging things that you've had to navigate in your business? And more importantly, what's the lesson that you've extracted from that?
Yeah, beautiful. I would say there are so many lessons, but I think my 2, I'm going to say my biggest one. My biggest one, I think I really learned last year, and that was experiencing a significant loss, a loved one suddenly passed away in my family, my brother-in-law. And it was probably, or hands down, the most challenging time of my life for me personally and my husband, and just as a family, and seeing how much that affected like all of us on such a deep level. It was every part of me in that moment that wanted to burn everything to the ground, and because I had never experienced like that level of pain in my life. Yeah. But what I've really noticed in that moment is that I learned that just duality on a complete different level. I know we often speak about duality. It was like, oh, duality, you can have a bad day, but you still show up. But I am talking extreme duality, to the point where I will be completely broken in tears, not thinking I can get out of bed, to showing up with unwavering focus and commitment every single day. Yeah. And I think the lesson that I extracted from that was how fucking strong I am.
Yeah.
And how much I can actually do. And also, we don't just move, we don't just take action when things are perfect, when things are rosy. I really learned to trust myself even in moments of complete heartache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think being someone on the outside, an observer as well, you wouldn't have even known.
Yeah.
Right. And there was like, of course, like you can piece together some pieces of story content and things like that. But I think that is just so admirable, not because that you didn't have a process, but your business still just did its thing. And that shows such deep levels of leadership and being so powerful as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think when I reflect on that as well, you know, and I'm really big on like we share from the scar and not the wound, and like I'm big on that in the sense on I don't think your social media from a business perspective needs to turn into like, you know, your diary or like your emotional hangover, and like we share all the things. But I think and I'm really big on that, and I still believe that. But I think there was a moment where I had a conversation with my husband. I said, I cannot move forward in my business if I don't acknowledge what's happened in my life.
Yeah.
And I think it was a really powerful moment to say, no, I'm choosing to lead from my wound.
Yeah.
Versus thinking I must extract the lessons. Like, no, I get to lead from my wound here. And again, like even behind the scenes with my clients, and they, you know, they were so beautiful and supported me through that. And, you know, there were a lot of tears on calls and whatever else. But I got to set a really healthy boundary with them as well, because I noticed like they were really mindful of, you know, not stepping on my toes and wanted to give me space and whatever else. And I had to say to them, ladies, you need to let me guide you, because it's my pillar of like, that is what drives me forward. Like, please let me continue to be that for you, because it gives me strength. Yeah. And it was really beautiful to be able to have that beautiful vulnerability with them, where they actually considered, you know, me and needing to navigate in process, but also me going, look, let me be that person for you. Let me be your pillar of strength. And it was really cool.
Yeah, so cool. And it's just like business as well doesn't always have to look like challenges directly in business. It's sometimes life and the byproduct.
Definitely,
for business.
very
like
much
that's
so.
a perfect example of like, I navigated something hard with like a contract, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it can often be life as well.
Yes.
And then being a business owner is the extension of ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what I really noticed in all of that is my unwavering commitment to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like you know, and even looking back through having my 3 kids back to back, you know, my eldest is, I've got a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a soon 4-year-old, you know, had my kids back to back. And, you know, I had some memories on my phone pop up, and like I've worked through all of my pregnancies, births, breastfeeding, like raising my kids, co-sleeping, sleep deprivation, all of the things. And I think you really need to have such core, deep why, because you're going to be up against it.
Yeah.
It's not all going to be rosy and easy. And I'm like, if I look back and I'd be like, I did all of that. But that comes from unwavering commitment to what you are essentially building.
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of brings me to like my next point around how that you actually run business, because you're the queen of daily sales.
Yes.
And being able to have sales and make money in your sleep, which I love just like watching and you normalizing, because I think a lot of the time we can see people that are successful and we can see, okay, they're telling me, you know, they're making $1 million months or like whatever the thing is, but I love that you actually see it with you and you're very transparent with how it actually happens.
Yes.
For anyone, I feel like even just debunking the myth of funnels, because this is something you speak a lot about.
Yeah.
What is a sales funnel? And that feels so like surface level to speak to.
I love it.
But I think a lot of people have like, they're either super, super complex, or they think a funnel is they opt into my freebie and they get an automated email.
Yeah.
So I think there's like two people on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and I'm coming to an event with you literally in 2 days' time to just like dive deeper into it. So
definitely. Yeah.
in your world, what is funnels?
Oh, well, funnels is a beautiful, sophisticated way of guiding people into your world.
Yeah.
Like just taking people on a journey from not knowing you to guiding them on this journey to becoming a client, a raving fan. They want to stay in your world forever. And that gets to be, you know, a journey from not knowing who you are to being in really close proximity and giving someone a transformation. Yeah. And the journey in which we guide them on, we essentially take them through a sales funnel. So whether you have a sales funnel in your business, like you have a sales funnel, whether you think you have one or not. Yeah. If you are guiding people into your world right now, you have a sales funnel. Yeah. Then can we add in levels of sophistication? Can we look at your data and your metrics and your conversion rates, really making sure that it's optimized? 100%. And when I think of sales funnels, there are three core components that makes a sales funnel really effective. And I like to call them, you know, you have tofu, mofu, and bofu. And what those three are is that top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. Yeah. And essentially the top of funnel is how people discover you, where, you know, that's, you know, your social media posts or, you know, driving traffic to then mofu, which is middle of funnel. A mofu example could be a conversion event. That could be a masterclass. That could be a resource. That could be a low ticket offer, which means that we are getting them from not knowing you to them building more trust and connection. So we are moving them through this beautiful funnel. Now they sit in the middle of the funnel, which means that they're starting to warm up a little bit. They're going from cold, now they're sitting at warm. And what we need to do as people are sitting in that warm stage of the funnel, it's like, what do I need to show them in order for them to feel safe to make a decision to say yes? Yeah. Which means that we then take them through mofu into bofu, which is the bottom of funnel. And bottom of funnel is essentially your conversion point. So that could be the email sequence that will support the conversion after a conversion event, essentially. Yeah. And once you have this structure in place, and what I love about having a funnel so much is that once it's set, it sits there. And all you need to do is to go in and optimize it, and you refine it and you tweak it. And all you got to focus on is lead generation, because you know you have the structure. It's like a beautiful stream. It's like a beautiful river, right? Yeah. And all you got to focus on is like, we're going to fill the top of funnel, because we know if we are generating enough leads to the top of funnel, we know that the middle of funnel and bottom of funnel, once that's optimized, that's just going to flow. The byproduct is daily sales.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important as well, even being a consumer myself. And the first thing I've invested in with you is this event on Wednesday. Yes. It's like all of that is still supportive, even though if the purpose of the funnel was maybe for a specific launch, it's still been perfect for me the moment that you're like, I've got an event, there's barely any context. I'm like, yeah, paying full. Yes. Like for $1,000. And it's like, it's still supportive of things. Even if it's months down the track, I think I followed you for over 12 months. Yes, you know, it's like that. Even that, and some other people's journey will be like they discover you and they pay in full for like $20K in mentorship, which I know happens for you as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think this is so beautiful. It's like I look back at some of the conversations that I've had with potential clients. Like they reached out to me in 2021. Yeah. And they're like, hey, you're still on my radar. And I think it's beautiful. Of course, I wish it would have jumped in back in 2021, but I also believe in like divine timing. Like people will come, and I know I can only control what I can control in my business, and that is my consistency, how I show up, my messaging, my marketing, and really making sure that I know what piece of real estate I want to take up in people's minds. And when you are clear on that, you then become really intentional about the content that you create. And when you're intentional about that, you are going to attract people who are actively looking for that solution.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think contributes to being able to be someone that converts high ticket sales with ease in the way in which you do? So obviously there's a level of nurturing, but even from a consumer standpoint, I know who I'm investing in versus who I'm not investing in from my personal perspective. But I'm curious to know for you, especially with the clients you work with, what is it that you focus on? So when someone does discover someone top of funnel, that they're like, yeah, that is someone I want to invest my money in because of the way they deliver their message, their purpose, how they present themselves.
Yeah, beautiful. I think in my opinion, in order for us to attract, like, say, our dream clients or our top tier client, whatever you want to call them, we need to think about they are actively looking for a solution. They are not even sitting in the pain. Like, they are actively thinking, who's going to be my next person that's going to take me to my next level?
Yeah.
And where I spend my focus is not in the pain. I don't need to remind people on that, they don't have a funnel and the business is running shit and, their income is really inconsistent, all the things. I actually get to be the evidence of what they are wanting to create. So we have this very distinct moment in our client timelines. And I like to call that, like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with not having systems, like not having a funnel, like all the stuff that you talk about as well.
Yeah.
Not having enough clients coming in, like income dips up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
I know that they are done. So when I get to speak into with an absolute knowing that my clients are done with not having a funnel, they are done needing to be glued to their phones. So I'm like, okay, if they are done with all of these things, what is the path that I want to take them on? So I know that I'm their bridge.
Yeah.
And I need to learn to articulate very clearly how I provide the transformation from I am done, not from pain to I'm done, from I am done to transformation.
Yeah.
And there are two ways of doing that. Number one, you're going to highlight that you have a knowing, and I like to use something called an active voice in marketing, that I carry myself with the assumption that every single person that consumes my content, it's just a matter of when they are going to invest.
I love that.
And I don't think that, they can't afford it. When you scroll up and see who's watched your story now and again, and then you're like, that person's not going to buy, or that person has bought from me before. And then you start to make all of these assumptions, or maybe that person is not going to be able to afford it. They're just on one income and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, no, if that's your assumption, that's why you're not calling them in. I have the assumption for every single piece of content that I create that people are hanging off every fucking word I say.
Yeah.
And they're like, they are sitting there like excited like little kids on Christmas to be like, when can I invest?
Yeah.
And they are just watching, ready. And when I think that, I don't fall into convincing marketing.
Yeah.
I don't speak into their pain. I'm like, I know that you are ready.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you are ready and we're going.
Yeah.
That's magnetic as fuck.
100%. It's this like, I don't need you, you need me energy.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And it's like, I'm going to keep on moving. I'm all good. If you don't want to invest, if you don't want to move in, like that's fine. Like, go you.
Yeah.
But I'm moving.
Yeah.
And we're going to pick up the pace even more.
Yeah.
Which means, and if you are looking at like sales psychology, that makes them want it even more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I am not, and I always say this, I don't hold space for people when they are in the decision-making process.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that I actually can't control whether someone is going to be a fuck yes to invest in my space or not, but I can control how quickly I move. And I'm like, you do you, but I'm going to pick up my pace.
Yeah.
Byproduct, they're like, okay, I mean, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part. The second part that I think is really, really big as well is that I like to say less, show more.
Yeah.
Like, I am a living evidence of basically what I teach my clients, which is why I lead with so much transparency.
Yeah.
And I think the people that are not transparent in business, that will eat them up energetically because they cannot sit there with open arms and say, I know exactly how to do this. And I have this standard. Mastery is a standard. Like, it's on my desktop. It's on my phone. And have I reached all levels of mastery? Absolutely not. But it's a commitment, like an ongoing commitment that I make to myself in my business, that I want to make sure that I keep on mastering new levels again. And so I dedicate time, like hours every single week, where I go deeper into my craft.
Yeah.
It's not just a one set and forget, I'm good at this now and that's it.
Yeah.
It's a commitment to always learning and growing and evolving. And I think people, when they see that, when they feel that, it creates a lot of safety.
Yeah.
And if I can just end that part, is when you look at what makes someone really invest into someone, certainty, like confidence, gives people a lot of certainty. Like when I show up with unwavering certainty, I know exactly how to take you from A to B. You want to go from 30K to 80K, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
You want to go from 50K to 100K, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
That certainty creates a lot of safety for potential clients.
Yeah.
They love to be like, tell me the path I need to take. When I'm like, I've got you, this is the path, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It creates a lot of safety for people.
Yeah.
Which is an energy that's required in order for people to move.
Yeah. And I think there's something to that. Like if you're looking to invest in someone and it's like, they're like, I think I can do it this way. Like, absolutely not. Am I spending money on you? Like,
yeah, interesting.
Just like,
yes.
like it's that energy of like, okay, you don't even know your framework. You don't even know your process, which I speak to so many clients, especially when they're like in the first 2 years of business, I'm like, what actually makes you different to a competitor? What is your framework? And I think it's the things we're not necessarily taught. Because once I got into so much clarity around that, marketing became easy. I could speak with conviction. I could speak with confidence because I'm like, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3 of the approach that I take, which is really cool. I would love to unpack. I love that you can speak about energetics, but I love that you're so data and strategy backed because I've been in opposite ends of like the pendulum in the industry with coaches I've worked with where it's like, just trust and like, your external reality is just catching up to you. And it's like, okay, but I'm literally working like 12-hour days, nothing's working. And then it's like, just trust.
Yeah.
See you on next fortnight's call. And it's like, it's so damaging. But I love that you have still that blend that you're not so like bro marketing and like the super masculine side. You're known for feminine-led sales, but you've got the structure, which I love.
Yeah.
I would love to know a little bit more about whether it's like your journey or why you have the approach that you do, if you've kind of had that pendulum swing yourself and you've come into like your way of doing it.
Yeah, beautiful. I've always been very just logical when it comes to like business in general.
Yeah.
Like journaling is not a business strategy. Like it's not.
I'm like, that will be the hook of this.
Yeah.
This podcast. I'm like, put that on a t-shirt.
Do I believe that journaling can be really beneficial to someone moving through some energetics? Absolutely. Do I believe that there is a time and place for healing, for reflection, to sit in contemplation? Absolutely. I still do all of those things. But I also know that 99% of problems will be dissolved if people took action.
Yeah.
That's it. I went through an exercise with my clients a couple of weeks ago and I said, I want you to write down a list of problems that you are currently having. I want you to rate the severity of the problems from 1 being I could probably fix that right now, 10 being it's really fucking bad, I got to deal with it straight away. Then I said, what category does it fall under? What's the root cause of the problem? Then write me the solution. A 90-minute call, these girls had a list of problems, the severity of them, where they come from, the root cause, and the solution. I said, now we're going to spend the next 30 minutes executing and actually solving your top most severe problems. They came back in a fortnight, they're like, I'm good now.
Yeah.
So I see this again and again and again and again with clients. It's like only so much mindset work. Yes, it's essential. But action and strategy, it's essential. Yeah. And look at the data. Like data is your evidence.
Yeah.
Like sitting in your feels or crossing your fingers, it's not going to like make you $1 million.
Yeah.
Looking at the data, being really logical on your strategy and intentional about what you are creating, being able to analyze your workflow, what's working, what do we remove? And I think that's where when you learn to actually look at all of those things with a level of curiosity, not like I'm shit, I'm good. It's like, okay, where in my funnel is this not converting?
Yeah.
Where does it break? We don't burn down the entire house. We just go and fix the leak.
Yeah.
And now it just becomes like a game of like, I'm just going to refine this. I'm just going to try this. I'm just going to tweak this. And we're just constant in the energy of like, oh, how can we improve? How can we make this better?
Yeah.
But you can only do that if you track.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like very passionate about this.
No, I love it. And it's being able to remove yourself from your business. And yes, we can have personal brands that are associated to our business. But yeah, it's like, oh, why aren't I making sales this month? And it's like, and again, time and place for mindset, but it's like, where don't I feel worthy to receive? And it's like, no, your messaging is so off. It's not even funny. Like you have one email that gets sent out to someone, like look at data and numbers, like business is a numbers game.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love that you shared that as well. And I think a lot of women in particular are very scared of being rejected.
Yeah.
And they cannot stand the sound of no.
Yeah.
Pass. I'm not in. They're like, ugh. They literally like, I can't deal with another rejection. Yeah. And I can relate to that because, of course, it's never fun when someone is like, no, I don't want you. I'm not going to invest. Like, I understand that.
Yeah.
But the only way to move through that is to get really used to getting rejected.
Yeah.
So when I was going through a process many years ago where I'm like, oh, fuck, every time I get a no, like I just feel down. Now, like I get no's every single week, but look at how many yeses I'm getting.
Yeah.
Every single day. So the no's are just like, okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel sorry for you, but that's okay, you know? But back a few years ago, I created a photo album on my phone that said rejections. And I screenshot every single time someone said no to me. And I just put them in that screenshot like folder. And I would go in to look at that to be like, oh, remember when that person rejected me when my private mentoring rates were like a tenth of what they are now? Yeah. And like I'll just go back and look at that. And I, even with clients now, when they really struggle with getting rejected, I just say to them, I said, go out between now and our next call, go out and get 50 no's. Create that much marketing to have that many conversations with people, and I want you to come back with 50 no's. They fail every single time because they have so many people that will say yes to them. Yeah. They're like, I can't get to the 50 no's. Yeah. And I'm like, are you still scared of being rejected? They're like, no, now it's just like a fun game. And I'll be like, I'll pay you $1,000. Yeah. Like I will send you $1,000 if you go out and get 50 no's. And they're like, I had a record month. And I'm like, what a fucking surprise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's so true versus like actually trying to like heal the root cause of like why you're getting rejected. It's like the action actually dissolves it.
Exactly right. I can play on that. Like I had no money growing up. Yeah. I came out to Australia with $3,000 in the bank. Yeah. Like nothing, like no real estate, no, like I have not been given like anything. Yeah. But if I look back at the way I was brought up, yeah, it wasn't abundant, but my parents, they raised me to be really confident. Yeah. And if you want to be more confident, you need to be more competent. So every time I'm feeling shaky, if I'm like, oh, I'm feeling nervous, like the words are not like rolling off my tongue, oh, that's a good indication, Rebecca, you need to go and study. Yeah. And you need to become more competent because competence, it just breeds confidence. Yeah. And repetition, getting the reps in, like doing the damn thing again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's like, for anyone listening as well, it's like, okay, well, go live, get rejected, have 2 people watching your live. Like it's as simple as taking action to dissolve it, which I really, really love.
Mm-hmm, very much so.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 1,000 directions I could take this conversation.
I love it. Yeah.
I would love to know this is me just like taking into more of an investing conversation now. Being someone that now is in real estate, you're building up your property portfolio. And again, I love that with your coaching business, you just speak about the numbers in your coaching business, not, the wealth that you've built as a whole. Yeah. But when it comes to being a female in business, I think it's often that we don't really have much education around being able to actually build our wealth outside of just our business. And we typically hear investing is just always investing in the next coach and the next thing. What was the time and place for you when that you started diversifying whether your income was coming in through the level of investing?
Beautiful question. So that my answer is not as probably like intentional and strategic that you probably want it to be, because my investing journey started when my son was 1. Yeah. And I think I just want to like share this part of the story. And I was on a podcast only last week and I shared this and he was like, fuck, I love that you talk about this. And that, so when I met my husband, we had our first child in Sydney and we were living in Sydney. I was living in Sydney for 7 years. And long story short, once we had our firstborn, we're living in a 2-bedroom, like beautiful. We're in the eastern suburbs, like just living the dream. But like now we have a child. but we were living paycheck to paycheck. So we're like, this is not ideal. So we moved from Sydney. We moved to the Central Coast, which is an hour and a half north of Sydney. And we moved in with Brody's parents for 10 months to save up for a deposit to get our first house.
Yeah.
So my first investment wasn't strategic whatsoever, other than like, we need to like cut back to make sure that we have a deposit to get our first house. So we then bought our first house. 10 months later, we bought our first house. And then we had another couple of kids in a very short period of time. And we moved up to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
From that point, we kept our first property, and my business had really taken off. So I had the ability to be able to service another loan.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing. Yeah, you have the deposit, but then you need to make sure that you can really service the loans as well. And I think that is it's a tricky conversation as you are growing more and building your portfolio, because yeah, you can service one loan, but you also need, once you have 4 or 5, you need to show that you can service like all 5.
Yeah.
So then you often run into a servicing issue, and there are ways around that. But so we bought our first property, we moved up here, and then we bought our second one. So we kept that one. We used parts of the equity for that one, bought our second one, then we used the equity for those 2, bought our third one with some deposits. And I think when I look back at that journey, we still very much, like only last year, about a year ago now, we bought our first commercial property, and I want to buy at least one property every single year. And I have a minimum amount, and I often say this, I never keep more than $100,000 in my savings account. And the reason for that is because I'm so set on investing.
Yeah.
And for me, real estate is the path that I want to take, because I used to work in real estate, so it feels very like aligned for me.
Yeah.
And I think whatever you want to do from an investing perspective, I just think it's important, have a plan.
Yeah.
Like have a plan, and just make sure that you can educate yourself enough to say, this is going to be my plan. Because I have some friends that are like, yeah, we're all in crypto. And I'm like, I'm not in crypto because I don't feel educated enough to take that path.
Yeah.
So for me, like real estate was a very obvious choice, and we have made, and I don't even bring that up. And as you mentioned, I like to keep that very clean and separate. But we have made a significant amount of money from just investing.
Yeah.
And one property alone like increased like $500,000 in value, and that's conservative from the bank 18 months after we bought it.
It's insane.
And that's completely hands off. Someone lives there, pays the mortgage, and that has gone a $500K conservative in 18 months.
Yeah. And I think it's cool as well, because when we speak about wealth building and building businesses and all of the things, I've been saying this to my partner so often, because he's like, what's the invention? What's the business that I've got to create? And I'm like, trust me, there are so many other ways you can build wealth that doesn't have to look like building a business if you're not passionate about it. And I just love that as evidence. And I also love the part of the story that you said, that 10 months at your partner's parents, because
definitely
I think, again, the narrative online that you're often sold is like, if you want to, get into investing, like just make more money. And it's like, it's actually not that simple. Sometimes you still have to take sacrifice at different levels to be able to get in. It's exactly what my partner and I are about to do, is go move into a separate house of his parents to
I
save
love
and do
that. Good on you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that so much. And then, I got asked last week on a podcast, they're like, so how do you like navigate the ego of just like possibly like, you've gone from like living in the eastern suburbs in Sydney, like social butterfly, all the things, to like moving with the in-laws. And I'm like, and I was also like a new mum.
Yeah.
Living in, and we didn't have a separate house. Like we were living in their house. They had a big, beautiful house. So we were very lucky.
Yeah.
But I'm like, still, but for me, it was never important for me to look rich.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say that again. It was never important for me to look rich. I never walked into a luxury store until I had 2 properties under my belt and I'd had my first 100K month in business. And I know that's not, maybe some people, they really value that. And, now, can I have nice things? Absolutely. But that comes from like play money. That comes from pocket money of like, okay, great. Am I investing? Have I paid myself and my husband, who's now employed in my company, for making me beautiful coffee and looking after my children, which is the vibe. He's been a stay-at-home dad for 3 years, but I'm like, perfect, a way to minimize tax. I employ him.
Yeah.
It's so many different ways in which you can like move wealth.
Yeah.
It's like you just got to be open to it. But for me, it was really important to building true, genuine wealth instead of looking rich.
I fucking love that so much because it's so easy to get caught up in the ego of it, right? Like I'm successful in all of the things. I've had my moment of that, especially at the start of business where I'm like, okay, buy the next thing. But it's like,
yeah, and I get that. And it's like, and you know, it's a nice thing to do. And I'm saying, like, go and buy the nice things, like 100%. Like I remember I like to have a beautiful, you know, I buy myself something nice. Like every time I hit like a milestone in business, like, and that's a nice thing to do. Like you should definitely reward yourself, but not to the point where you're like, now I'm just like spending on shit that is actually not an asset. That's not going to like help to generate more wealth.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something to be mindful of, that I'm like, well, what are you actually building? And I think the three key parts to knowing that is 100% clarity on your vision. That's going to be number one. Number two is 100% belief.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can actually do it.
Yeah.
And number three is 100% of the time. So when you have 100% clarity, 100% belief, 100% of the time, you will ultimately get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
But those three parts are so important. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time just like spending here, without like actually knowing what you are creating.
It's looking like more than just 2 steps ahead of you and looking at the bigger picture as well. And yeah, like me and my partner had conversations with that because it's like, okay, we're moving a bit more like inland. We want to do that for like our values and things like that. And I'm like, it's such a minuscule, you know, point in time that we're going to have to commit to being out there. We still have a separate house. Like you said, it's like, it's not even really a sacrifice in my mind, but it contributes to the bigger picture, which I think is so important. It's the same with business as well, not just getting caught in the next shiny thing and being able to have a game plan that, yes, it might take you a little bit longer, but it's like that slingshot era of just being able to take a few steps back in order to really propel yourself forward as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And I really love hearing this. And I'm like, gosh, we need to have more conversations, because I don't tend to bring in too much like of my real estate, and, you know, it just feels a little bit, it's not irrelevant, but I don't share too much about it. And I'm like, oh, now I've mentioned it twice, you know, in the past week. And I'm just hearing you do that. Like, I think it's brilliant, because there are so many people that will just keep getting, you know, the beautiful rental with really high rent, but then they just can't get out of that cycle of just like, well, now we're paying significant rent. We're not saving anything. And, you know, I'm in the process of building my business. Yeah, maybe there's money coming in, but then, you know, there are other factors as well. So I love hearing that.
And it's funny because it's like such a big thing that's drawn me to you as a person to work with, which is like, I was literally saying this to Riley this morning, because it's like, you haven't just built the business. And of course that's an incredible achievement, but it's what you've done then with the opportunities and how you've leveraged that. Then I'm like, that's who I want to learn off, and someone that's actually fucking done it.
Yeah, 100%.
Is so important. I would love to shift gears if you're happy to speak about this. Because I've had this conversation again with Riley too. Being a female in business, and like you said, you've retired your husband and he is working under your company. Has there been anything that's come up for you, and how have you navigated that with your partner? And obviously we don't need like all of the details, but I think
I'll give all the details. Yeah,
like I'll spill the tea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that like even with my partner as well, it's like, I feel like it can be a bit of a limitation in my own experience, because I'm like, oh my God, like the societal norm is the man supports the woman, and like the woman raises the kids. And yeah, I think for myself now, entering a stage in life where I'll, you know, in the next few years probably be having kids. And if I actually, that's what I came into end of last year. I'm like, fucking send it. Like, why are you doing these ones just to match his income? Like, you could actually retire him in 5 years' time if you wanted to.
Yeah.
What's that journey looked like for you, and any advice you can give someone like myself?
I have so much to say on this. And well, first and foremost, like I'm married to a veteran. Like, my husband is a soldier. He worked in the Army and Navy for many years, like multiple trips over to Afghan. When I met him, he was a case manager and worked with homeless kids in the eastern suburbs. Wow. So biggest heart. And then we were both working. I think this is something I just want to highlight. We were both working up until, you know, probably 3.5 years ago now. He's been home. So there was definitely a messy period in business where we were just like, and kids involved too. Yeah. You know, kids, and I was like, I love being pregnant. Like, I love giving birth, breastfeeding, all the things. And it's like, I did that for a long time, but it's like, it's messy, you know, because we were up at night, he's going to work. Okay, now I'm doing a little bit of my work. And then, you know, I've got the kids. Like, it was full on, but we're like, hey, we just like made it work. And then when my business really took off, I think what's really key here, and when I look back at our journey for the past, 3.5 years, we are both very secure in who we are. That there is, like, if Brody's like, if someone asks, so what do you do? He's like, I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
He does not even have to go in, yeah, but I'm a veteran. Yeah, but I've fucking saved this country. Like, he has no need to trying to validate and prove anything because we are a team. It's like same with like our money is coming from. I don't give a shit that it's coming from my company.
Yeah.
It's like I could not do it without him.
Yeah.
Like he's out. It's the last day of school holidays today. And he's out like riding bikes with my kids. Like that's invaluable. So we are not looking at like who is doing what, like who is providing more. It's a team effort of like, what's our vision? And he knows that I am so, like he will never get me to retire.
Yeah.
It's like he knows that I'm in my zone, like doing what I love every single day. So I'm looking at it more of him sacrificing his career to step in and support me. But then he's like, I'm happy to kick back and, just
he's like,
do my thing.
Yeah.
But I think first and foremost, it's like you need to be so secure in who you are. And we are completely shut down, like any distractions of what people or society tells us who we should or shouldn't be, or if I'm so in my masculine or like whatever. I think it's just like a whole lot of bullshit. You need to connect as a couple. And I'm like, are you good? He's like, yeah, I'm good. Are you good? Yeah, I'm good. This is what we're doing. This is what I need. What do you need from me? Like we're just clear on that.
Yeah.
And when you're locked in as a couple, you can't hear anything around you.
Yeah. It's so true. And where you just go to adopt other people's, and I do that to my partner all the time, poor thing. I'm like, are you sure that like that's not something that would like make you feel insecure? And he's like, it really doesn't.
No, and he
like,
would say it. Yeah, 100%.
Like you take on other people's beliefs of or how other men act with that. And it's like, well, that relationship fell apart because she was doing this. And it's like, I love that. Just
I was like, don't even like feed that. It's like if you are solid and you know what you are building, it's like I love a good spreadsheet. I love crunching numbers. It's like, and if we go to an auction, like I'm the one bidding at auction because it's like I've lived and breathed like real estate and the whole biopsychology or buying in an auction. Like he knows that's me in my element. Yeah. So he's like, go for it. You do all the bidding. Yeah. You're the one that's negotiating. You are the one that will make the next. And I'm like, and I still check in with him. Yeah. But I'm like, are you good for me just to go and do this? And he's like, yeah. If you're in, I'm in. Yeah. And that's it. It's like the trust that we have in each other. It's like he lets me like fully take charge of the things that I'm responsible for and vice versa. Yeah. It's that team effort. And I think that makes such a big difference in how you can then show up in business. Yeah. Having that support. For sure. And I think something that I want to highlight because I know like naturally as women in business, we are more like energetically in our masculine. Yeah. And I had to work hard on that to be able to soften into my feminine coming home because I will come home and I'll be like, ba, 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 ba. He was like, oh, like not the vibe, like Coach Rebecca. Yeah. Like just have a minute. And I really had to learn that transition. So for me, it's the drive home, in which I love that our recent investment is that commercial property to be able to drive into work and drive home. It's only a 10-minute drive, but that shifts like something internally for me where I'm like, now we're taking the coach hat off and now I'm stepping into wife and mum Rebecca. Yeah. And he knows now. And I'm so, if you're watching the video of this and if not, I'm popping my hands in front of my chest because every time I come home, I give my husband a hug, but I hug him with my arms like this. And that is simply because I want to fall into his arms of him holding me versus me. Like I just want to be a little one. Yeah. I need just a little forehead kiss. I want him to make me a cup of tea. Go and wash your face. Go and get changed. I've got you. Yeah. That didn't just happen. Yeah. I had to go, hey, when I come home, make me feel like I'm a little girl. Yeah. Because I'm going to be like all macho in my masculine energy, like coming home and like my energy is going to be high. Help me soften. Yeah. He's like, I've got you. Yeah. Something very small, but I'm like, it's really simple.
It's like, and that's how we actually need to be held and supported.
Yeah.
Like it actually doesn't have anything to do with money, because that's something that I've like pondered on. I'm like, okay, Isaac makes 5 times what I make, but it's like, it's still not the thing. I want to be emotionally supported. Like that's what we actually want.
Yeah.
Not
exactly
someone that
right.
like, yeah, I'm like, okay, if he's making that and he can't be the emotional support for me, well, I don't want it.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
it's
like
also understanding that.
yeah, for sure. And then being able to communicate that. Because I
Yeah.
think like us as women, we're going to be like, why is he not fucking reading my mind? I'd be like, dude, he's like, we simple creatures, like tell me what you need and I shall deliver. And I'd be like, I learned that to be like, hey, I want you to hug me like this. I want you to go and tell me to go and sit on the couch, make me chamomile tea with a little bit of honey and I will feel so fucking loved.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, so, gosh, you pay your husband a full-time salary. So what does he actually do? And I was like, he wakes up every single morning. He makes me morning coffee and he brings it out to me. And every single morning I'm like, I feel so fucking loved by you.
Yeah.
It's very simple
Yeah.
if you want it to be.
Yeah. It's so true. And it's like, that's truly what fucking matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Shifting gears, when you're saying the macho, like Rebecca, like when you're stepping into a boxing ring of life, like you're coming in, you call it like your drive to the office and you know you're just like going to fuck shit up for the day. What's your go-to song? Because I feel like you're going to surprise me.
Well, I'm going to surprise you, but I was just reflecting on that because I am a die-hard. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Backstreet's back, all right. I'm a die-hard Backstreet Boys fan.
Yeah.
Seen them live 5 times.
Oh my God, she's a super fan.
Like, I am a super fan. Like, we're talking, like, I've been out clubbing with them, like, backstage, all the things, out dancing till 3 a.m. type of vibe. If I want to feel unfuckable with, I'll listen to the Backstreet Boys. Any boy band, I'm a lover girl. Any boy band. Are you shocked?
I'm a little bit shocked because I'm just picturing you like in your car and it's like she's on a mission. But it's
Yeah.
like you would not think that if you just like heard the audio that it's Backstreet Boys.
I know, right? And it's the Backstreet Boys. And it was so funny. I picked up my brother who's here with us today. I picked him up on my way and I turned down the windows and like he walks out of his apartment and I'm just like blaring Backstreet Boys and I'd be like, today's going to be a good day. Like we could not be so different when it comes to music. But I'm like, here's the thing. Don't confuse like my lover girl, my kindness for weakness.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can be all soft, I can be all romantic, but I'm a Viking.
Yeah. And I feel like that is like the ultimate power when it's like, no, you think I'm this, but it's like jokes. I feel like I have that as well where people are like, oh, she's like super shy and reserved. I'm like, oh, you fuck with me? You fuck with my like friends or family? You will regret that.
Yeah. I'm definitely Swedish Viking and it's I'm very kind until I'm not.
Yeah.
So that would be it. Just for like ultimate shock factor and then the person in the ring would be like, oh, I've got her. Like, look at this, just like little Backstreet Boys fan walking in. And I'll be like, I've got you. Boom.
First round.
Knockout.
I love it. It's actually my favorite question to get to know someone. It's the
I
ultimate
love
icebreaker.
that. What would you walk into?
Mine is Gangster's Paradise.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah.
Which as soon as like the actual like lyrics start playing, it's like not the vibe, but it's just like the doom, doom. I'm just like, yeah, like I'm fucking ready.
I love that. 100%.
Yeah, I love it. One final question for you to wrap it up.
Please.
I'm like going to roundabout back to funnels because it's a question. Personalization then in the sales process, because I think a lot of people could assume, and I've definitely had this assumption in the past, like, okay, it's like generic emails. Like that's how you kind of see funnels, right?
Yeah.
I've had sales conversations with you before, like being on the receiving end.
Yeah.
There's obviously such deep levels of like personalization,
Yeah.
deep care and understanding. So what does it look like for you? Let's just say if I was literally coming to you for a mastermind, I'm joining a mastermind. What does that sales process look like for you so that you can really ensure there is a level of personalization?
Yeah, beautiful.
Also blended with potentially like you've had a conversion event, like blending the two of them.
Yeah, beautiful question. So the way I like to look at it is a funnel is there to support you when you are not there.
Yeah.
Customer service and connecting, I call it the concierge experience.
Yeah, I love
like
that.
we have exchanged voice notes.
Yeah.
And I really love that I get to do that with my clients. when I'm not there, I know that I have the systems to support me. But whenever I can, I love, like, when people reach out to me in my DMs, I love to have a back and forth, which means that I am the sales funnel.
Yeah.
I would never send someone to be like, hey, go and look at this conversion event so I can convert you.
Yeah.
Like, no. That is there when I am not on.
Yeah.
So I actually love being able to have, well, there are two parts of this. One is when people directly reach out to me, I love to very intentionally guide them in the best direction, to be like, tell me where you're at so I can actually guide you, because that's going to feel really intentional. And you would know on the receiving end, it's not just like, yeah, you'd be perfect, but I haven't actually listened to where you're at and what you are navigating, where you want to go. Like, that's really important for me so that I can actually get the best transformation for my clients.
Yeah.
But when I'm not there, and when people are coming through the top of funnel, they're going to a masterclass or they're in my sequence, I'm like, that is just an opportunity for people to buy from me. That is just an opportunity very conveniently for them to be able to move into my world.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think about it as like, you know, when you go to a house party and like someone has like a beautiful cheese platter, and then you walk around with this cheese platter and then you're going to be like, oh, no, I'm good, thanks. Like, I won't have anything. But then maybe next time it's like, oh, yeah, actually I will.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't force people to eat, but we want to make sure that we always have something that people can actually pick from, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's such a nice way to be like, oh, but imagine if we just walked around with that cheese platter once. People would like starve. They will come to your party and they're going to be like, hey, like, why are you not serving? Like, you just walked around once, so you're not going to do it again. Yeah. And we do it again and we do it again. Not because we are forcing people to eat. It's like just because we want to have options that when you are ready, I'm going to have something available.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think there are just like the two parts of like, a funnel is there to actually build deeper connection and trust when they're done correctly. Yeah. And they're also really good for proactively be able to minimize any future objections. So when you actually understand what possible objections that could come up, when you learn to infuse them in your messaging proactively before you get to the bottom of funnel, which is conversion, you know that you would have at least minimized 4 to 5 possible objections by the time they get to that conversion point, which means your likelihood of converting, whether that's in DMs or whether that's in, you know, an email, it's far more easier to convert, and your conversion rate will be a lot higher because you have proactively, and again, strategy, be able to intentionally like, okay, what's that objection? Okay, time. How do I blend that in? Okay, then it's money. And then there is like, is this going to be right for me? Maybe there is like more of a practical one, which is a partner. Okay, how do I blend all of those into my messaging to then support the conversion point at the end? Yeah.
You're taking them to the level, so then it's so much easier. You're taking them from like level 7 to 10 versus like level 1, they're a cold lead because they haven't had all of that before.
Yeah, correct. So when you said in the beginning, you're like, I know that people can drop into your DMs, never spoken to you before, and pay you 20 grand or 40 or 50 grand. Yeah. That is because, well, number one is because I'm so dialed in on my messaging, and a lot of my clients, especially if I look at the pattern of like my, you know, my high level, like my most successful clients, they don't say much. They don't jump into like, you know, inquire about 10 different offers and never take action. Yeah. They sit back and they observe. Yeah. And they don't say anything. And I think it's a beautiful reminder for all of us that people are watching and you never know who's watching. Yeah. And I had that happen only last week. I've never spoken to this girl before. She's followed me for years, jumped in and paid in full for my 10X mastermind. Yeah. And it's such a cool experience to be like, wow, who are you? Where did you come from? She's like, I watched you for years. I'm ready now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what the structure side of funnels can support as well, because I noticed that, like, I know how I buy and I love having a conversation and just understanding what's the best options for me. Yeah. Like, I'll observe and then kind of reach out. But then some people, I'm like, you just like go through the funnel and then you just pay in full to a thing and it's like, the fuck? Like, slay, but like so random. And I feel like, because that obviously happens for you as well a lot too.
Yeah, well, definitely. And I think that what makes that like, and for instance, it's very different to when you sell like a broader space or a more like holistic space versus like, come in here, I'm going to teach you how to build a funnel in 90 days. Boom. Yeah. Like, it's very specific, it's very tangible. And if someone is looking for the solution, it's very easy to convert because you're just showing whatever you are navigating right now, here is the bridge. Let's go. Yeah. So I think what makes a funnel like really, really effective is rather than going broad, learn to go really deep.
Yeah.
And that is in your messaging, in your conversion event, and in your sequence, rather than going broad, like go really, really deep, because that's going to help with conversion.
Yeah, I love it. Anyone that's listening to this, like, okay, I'm ready to build out funnels.
Yeah.
I know that you have a program for this. Where can they
Yes.
find more information on that and start implementing funnels into their business? Or like you said, they've probably already got some, but start optimizing their funnels rather.
Yeah, beautiful. So I think the best way would be to send me a DM and let's do something fun. We're just going to do like 10x Taylor, and then I'm going to send them something beautiful. It will be 2 spaces that will be really beautiful for them. One could be quantum scaling, which is a self-paced where I essentially walk you through the entire process of how to build out your funnel. And what's really cool about this, I've really taken like the legwork out. I am giving you my swipe files, every single email sequence, every automation, every landing page, every sales page. Like I'm handing you, like take this, here you go, tweak the copy, execute.
Love.
So it's such a game changer. And if they want to have the live component to that, then I have a program called the 10X Circle, which I'm essentially teaching all of that along with my business principle inside of that space.
Love. Sounds amazing. Where can they find you on socials?
Just on Instagram, which is Rebecca_Adehill, which is ADEHILL.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. That was such a good conversation. I loved all the different directions we went in.
Same. I love that so much. Thank you for having me. And I cannot wait to spend a day with you on Wednesday.
I know.
It's going to
I'm
be
excited.
so much fun.
I know. I'm vlogging for the week, so everyone will be able to see it, because this episode will go up in like a month's time, I think. So it'll be good because everyone will be able to go see it.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you
Amazing.
so much for having me.
I'll catch you in another episode, guys. And that wraps up another episode of Simply Business. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. If that you enjoyed today's conversation, please feel free to share it onto your socials and tag me. I love seeing all of your shares and feedback on the episode. If that you're feeling extra generous, please feel free to follow me over on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Taylor Lee Consulting. And a like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast would be greatly appreciated. I'll catch you in the next episode.